Hi, Francis. You're on mute. We'll figure it out one day. It's nice to see your face. I can't hear you, unfortunately. So sorry. You have to call me one day.
I'm eating. I'll see you in a few minutes. Okay.
No problem. Hey, Carly, just let me know when we have quorum.
We have quorum.
Oh, wow. Okay. Awesome. Well, then we can just get started. Welcome to the May 6th, 2021 meeting of CB11's Environment, Open Space and Parks Committee. My name is Jessica Elliott and I'm the chair of the committee. This meeting is called to order at 6:33, a record. Tonight we are joined by Assistant District Manager Carly Wine, the staff liaison to our committee, and I believe Nilsa, our CB11 chair, will be joining us this evening as well. In order to conduct an efficient meeting, let's observe a few ground rules. 1, no one may speak until granted the floor. 2, CB11 members, if you have a question about board business or wish to make a motion, please raise your hand through Zoom. If you click the participants icon, the participants panel should appear and you should find the raise hand function there. If you still have technical difficulty, you may click the chat icon and relay your difficulty to the staff. The chat function should not be used for CB11 business or questions about agenda topics. All such remarks should be made on the record by raising your hand through Zoom. Chat should only be used to alert us of any technical difficulties you are having or to state in writing information like an email address that was already stated aloud on the record during the meeting. When a member is given the floor to speak, I will identify you and you can unmute yourself so that you can speak. Please keep your questions and comments succinct and germane to the discussion. Members of the public, if you have a question or comment about the subjects on the agenda, please raise your hand through Zoom and wait to be recognized. We will now take attendance by roll call. Board members, you can unmute yourselves and answer present when your name is called.
Collier. Elliott.
Present.
Giordano.
Present.
Heredia.
Present.
Lee.
Present.
Mastroda. You have to unmute yourself, Francis. I see you, but say it. Oh.
Like every time you click it twice on accident, somehow, Francis. There you go. There you are. You're off mute. Don't press anything. Say present.
Present.
There you go.
McCullough. Quinones. Schuler.
Present.
And Wiltshire Clement. I'm going to call McCullough one more time because I see Malik. Oh,
Yes, I'm here.
there you go. All right, we have quorum.
Great. Thank you, Carly. The agenda for tonight's meeting was distributed ahead of time by the board office and was posted online. If there's no objection, we will adopt the agenda as stated. Committee members, if you object to adopting the agenda, you may raise your hand through Zoom. Seeing no objections, the agenda for tonight's meeting is adopted. The minutes from our last meeting were distributed to committee members ahead of time by the board office. If there's no objection, we'll adopt the meeting minutes from that meeting. Committee members, if you object to adopting the minutes, you may raise your hand through Zoom. Seeing no objections, the minutes from the last meeting are adopted. They will soon be available on the CB11 website. The minutes of tonight's meeting are being taken by myself. And we will move on to announcements. We have a number of announcements here, so. Carly, do you want to read them off, or I can read them off? It's up to you.
Sure, I could do it.
Okay.
All right, so we will be hearing about some of these announcements during the New York City Parks update, but we're just going to mention them here. So New York City Parks is looking for volunteer litter ambassadors to greet park visitors and host special events and barbecues. A New York City Park staffer will provide you with bags and answer any questions you might have. Ambassadors can volunteer through Labor Day and beyond. To learn more and volunteer, contact Historic Harlem Parks Administrator Jana Lasorte. I'm sorry, Jana, if I.
Hi, Carly. No worries. It's Jana Lasorte. Thank you.
Jana, I'm gonna get it one day. Okay. She will provide the New York City Parks update after, and might have more to say about that. She also might have more to say about the new City Cleanup Corps, an economic recovery program modeled on the New Deal that will generate 10,000 jobs in New York City and focus on cleaning our public spaces. Initial hiring began this month and more positions will be added through July. You can visit NewYorkCityGovParks.org for information on how to apply. We Act for Environmental Justice is offering a series of free online courses through their Environmental Health and Justice Leadership Program. There are no prerequisites for the courses and they're open to anybody who's 15 and older. You can visit their website, www.weact.org, to learn more. Uptown Grand Central is hosting a 125th Street Spring Planting event on Saturday, May 8th at 10 a.m. The event will begin at the northwest corner of 125th Street and Madison Avenue. Gloves, brooms, shovels, and other supplies will be provided. Registration is required. Additionally, Friends of the East River Esplanade is hosting a free youth fishing clinic at the El Barrio base station at 100th Street on the Esplanade on Saturday, May 15th at 10 a.m. and at 11 a.m. There's 2 sessions, and I believe that Stacy's on the line and we'll talk about it a bit during her update. Registration is required for that event as well, and instructors will provide all of the materials required. And New York City Parks is hosting an It's My Park event at Thomas Jefferson Park on Saturday, May 22nd at 10 a.m. Registration is also required. For more information, you can email itsmypark@cityparksfoundation.org. Maybe Parks has an update about that too. So a lot is coming up in these next 3 weekends. Hopefully you can attend one of them. And then lastly, our next committee meeting is on June 3rd. 2021.
And I'm personally planning on attending the It's My Park on May 22nd and the Uptown Grand Central this Saturday at 125th Street. So please come out and join me. I know Eva Chan has also been out there, and I'm sure many others. So it would be great to see you all out there. Thank you, Carly. We will now hear an informational update from Randall's Island Park Alliance.
We got a video on. Oh,
Um,
hi. Come here. Okay.
Hey, there
Hi,
you
everyone.
are.
Good. Okay, you can hear me, right? Okay.
Yes.
Great. Good to see everyone. So real quick, so one thing this month, we were excited to, as part of New York City Parks Art in the Parks program, Randall's Island, we partnered with Tagliatella Galleries to unveil 2 art pieces in the park by Ruben Robier. One is called Peacemakers, which is located right when you get down from the 103rd Street footbridge. And the other one is Dream Machine 2, which is up on the north end of the park by the Bronx Shore, right by the Bronx Shore picnic area. It's really exciting. We haven't had really any art in Randall's Island in a while, and this opportunity came through Parks, and we're really happy to have it. It's gotten some press. You may have heard about it. I think Tom may have mentioned it a couple of months ago when we were first looking at it. So if you come out to the park, you should really check out. They're both beautiful pieces. The new DOT bike pathways are in and they are great. People have really been enjoying them. They came out actually better than I could have imagined when we saw the plans from DOT, which is spectacular. Addition to that, we should shortly be putting in some of our new wayfinding maps in the park. They're updated really of the ones that are existing there, just kind of new maps, some of the things that have been updated in the park and have changed since last time we did it. So that process, we should be receiving the new map soon, and hopefully installation comes along pretty quickly. So at least the information as the season gets busy around the park is completely up to date. It'll also have new parks updated rules and regulations as well. Just some basic permit stuff. These are changing quickly with the city as they go in the state, but the cap on special event permits and outdoor gatherings, which had been 200, is now up to 500 people, which allows for social distancing. So some picnic areas, if people want to have larger events, we actually wouldn't permit it. We want to make sure that they're safe gathering sizes, but citywide, that is the new standard. So that for all the Randall's Island barbecues and events, that's kind of what we're looking at. The fall athletic permit season for our athletic fields is currently open and runs through June 15th. So if anybody wants to get athletic permits for the fall, now is the time to get their applications in. And just some quick event updates for the season for us. We had our Cherry Blossom Festival last weekend. I hope some people were able to make it out. It was a really nice Saturday, Sunday, once the wind died down. We still have our urban farm exploration days and volunteer days every Saturday and Sunday at the farm. We have garden tours and horticulture volunteer days for people who want to interested in more horticulture type volunteer projects. We have yoga every Tuesday in the park, 6:30, right by Icon Stadium under the big elm tree. We have May 8th, this Saturday, is International Migration Bird Day. So if anyone interested in some birding activities should come out to the park. I believe it starts around 10 a.m. And there'll be some information about the birds and kind of go around and see socially distanced, of course, what birds might be out in the park. We've had some really unique visitors this past year, so it's been pretty exciting for that. That's about all I have. If anyone has any questions.
Thank you, David. Are there any questions from the board? Any questions from the public? Marguerite Singleton, go ahead. Marguerite, can you unmute and state your question?
Hello.
Hello.
Thank you. I had to plug up my camera. Yes, I have a question. How can we sign up for these? Is there a website that a person can go to?
Yeah, so I should always mention that. Randallsisland.org. We have a page dedicated to, it's called events, and it lists all the different types of activities we have. There's email contact. Some require pre-registration because we don't want to, again, we want to make sure they're not overcrowded, so we know how many people are coming, and then we kind of cut it off if it gets full. Some of them are a little more casual, walk up when we have like the yoga in the park. There's enough room to spread out. But they're all on randallsisland.org under our events page. There's a whole calendar and a list, and you can always reach out to me if you have any questions, or anyone on our staff. We have a team that puts these programs together and do a really wonderful job, and we're happy to, if you have some ideas, look at them as well. So it's randallsisland.org. The events page is really where you'll find all the information on this.
Okay, thank you. And just one more quick question.
Mhm.
Transportation getting there, of course, there would be private transportation, but would that be public transportation? I think it's the 35 bus or something like
Yes.
that?
So the M35 bus at 125th and Lex comes to Randall's Island. It stops, does the whole loop pretty much around the park. There's also the 103rd Street footbridge you can walk over. The Triborough Bridge at 126th Street. The southern bridge has been closed by Triborough, so we only have the 126th Street bridge at this time. There's also the connector from the Bronx, from the South Bronx, which is an at-grade crossing, which is great for biking across. And you can also walk over from Astoria, which is on Hoyt Avenue North at 27th Street. So we have the one bus, but there's also ways if you wanted to walk over or bike over as well.
Okay, and walking over, it's easy to see how to get in there?
Yeah, I mean, there's really each of those ways. There's only one. You'll just land on Randall's Island. There's not like anywhere else you go. So once you get on the bridge on the walkway, there's only one way down. So you can't get lost walking over. As long as you get to the spot, you're good.
Great, thank you so much.
Thank you, Marguerite. And thank you, David. We'll move on to NYC Parks. Jana?
Hi, everybody. I want to see if Sheena's here. Sheena, are you here?
Yeah, I'm here. You here? Y'all
Okay.
can hear me?
Oh, yeah. Hi, Sheena. So, hi, Jessica. Hi, everybody. I'm going to turn it over to my partner, Sheena, since she has most of the parks in your district, and I can chime in on Marcus Garvey Park.
Okay, can everybody hear me? I guess I'm gonna stop for a minute. 'Cause
Yeah,
I'm
Sheena, we
walking
got
to- yeah. Okay, so, hello, everyone. Marcus Garvey Park, some great volunteer events are coming soon, to the park. I'm working it out with, our partnership for parks, staffing. So we're gonna do some volunteer work there and a few other, locations. Peter Minuet, we have already started the fence work and the layout for the mini soccer for that playground. We did some hiring of some new seasonals so we can be able to keep the bathrooms open and clean, up until 7 p.m. We have a lot of events taking place now. And I'm in the process of working with a lot of our volunteer groups and trying to spruce up our parks. The Parks Department is hiring now for seasonals up until December 31st, with the hopes of being able to keep them on longer throughout the winter months, but we have started hiring. I'm in the process of interviewing for the last month or so. And if you have anyone that you would like to recommend, you can actually send them to my email address. And because I'm up in personnel, and I'll just, put them to the batch of interviews that we're doing. So if anyone here or anyone know anyone that want a job with the license or without the license, this is the first time we're doing it without the license. So it's with or without the license, we're taking on, people. Of course, we have to do a background check and fingerprinting, but that's a part of the process. So if anyone want that,
Sorry, Sheena, I was just gonna say, you mean driver's license, right? Nobody has. to be
driver's
licensed.
license, yes.
Yeah.
Right, driver's license, nothing medical or nothing, like a driver's license. Because we need drivers to help, move around staff. And this is coming through the mayor's office. We got this big boost of hiring new workers, and it's an initiative going on, along with the other initiatives that's happening in the park throughout. Abraham Lincoln, Russell, I checked in with the contractors. We're in great progress. We are actually online on a good time frame of maybe by this fall, maybe. But the park is actually really looking good. The basketball court looks actually great. The color is absolutely marvelous. It goes right in connection with the park house. Let's see. Besides that, we're just looking, we're looking for some positive action to take place in the next couple of months. So hopefully we'll have some good information for everybody on the next board meeting. And I can tell you how great the staffing is and hiring everyone to be able. I'm sorry. I'm outside on my way to my doctor's office. I apologize. I'm sorry. But if anybody has any questions, please feel free.
And Sheena, I'm here. I'll add some more things. It sounds like you're going to be eaten by birds, so be careful out there. I'll add some more things about Marcus Garvey, and people can ask Sheena and me questions. So I, by the way, am still recovering from a vaccine, so I am pretty weary and thus not on video. So a couple of things just to echo what Sheena said. The park, I'll chime in on Marcus Garvey Park as the historic Harlem Parks administrator. It is looking great. As people may have noticed, Sheena and her team are taking care of a tree that was felled by the storm this week that took out a light post. So we're working on that. Be careful, everybody, because the hawks they're flying over Marcus Garvey, and be careful if you have little dogs off leash. Uh, two, we at Marcus Garvey have It's My Park Day on May 22nd as well. So as always, anybody who wants to think about volunteering on that day, Partnership for Parks and Sheena or I can help set you up. We're always looking for painting volunteers, gardening volunteers, cleanup volunteers. So, please get in touch with us, and I can give my email again. The cleanup core that Carly talked about in the announcements is what Sheena was telling you more about with the jobs push. That's very exciting. So Mayor de Blasio approved through Biden funds from the infrastructure bill, from the federal bill rather, to employ 10,000 people in the city across the 5 boroughs to help clean up the city, particularly our public spaces, including parks. So Sheena and I were really, really trying hard to get the word out there, so that people who are looking for work, this is a great time to pick up a seasonal job with parks. Sheena's working overtime right now to hire people. So if you do know young people, and it's 18 to 80, you guys, there's no age limit actually. So seniors who might want a seasonal job, 18-year-olds, 35-year-olds, 50-year-olds, it doesn't matter. We're hiring now and we'll be hiring through July. And as Sheena said, the jobs can be extended through December. And once you get inside, you have the potential maybe for full-time hire too. So we really encourage you guys to spread the word on this. Also on litter ambassadors, thank you, Carly. I am looking for as many volunteers. Jessica, Carly, I hope to do walkthroughs with you guys. It can be fun. Just, time to walk through the park, enjoy it, say hi to people enjoying the park and hand them some orange bags, make sure they know where the trash corral is and ask them to love our park, okay? So that we don't have the trash problems that we did last season. Speaking of that, we will have Monday morning pitch-ins that I'll tell you about on the next meeting in June, but Sheena and I are finishing that right now with Partnership for Parks so that we can have scheduled Monday morning pitch-ins for people who might have time 9 a.m. to noon on Monday mornings to come by and help us clean up from barbecues in particular. Let's see, a few last items. We have pending good news, everybody, and we can confirm this on the June meeting. The comfort station by the amphitheater it's supposed to be open by June. Yay! Yes, we're very, very excited. We'll give you the confirmation on that next month's meeting. That will make a huge difference, as we all know, for our summer events that happen in the park. And speaking of that, dun da da da. New York Philharmonic will be at Marcus Garvey Park Lawn on the east side, May 14th, 15th, and 16th, everybody. So please, the New York Times did a great article. If you guys go off share, I can drop it in the chat. Otherwise, I don't know how to do it. But yes, New York Philharmonic in partnership with National Black Theater. Sheena and I are working on that right now. That'll be May 14th, May 15th, May 16th at Marcus Garvey Park on the Great Lawn on the east side. Free, bring your blanket.
Free, bring your blanket. Yes, bring your blanket.
And then lastly, just a tip of the hat to our parks colleague, David Salerno. I just did a great visit to the urban farm. It is really fun, definitely worth a visit. So I hope people will go over to Randall's Island and check it out. Gave me some good inspiration. And then, oh, last but not least, our PEP building was just repainted. I hope everybody noticed. It looks very, very cute right there before the amphitheater. And PEP and I will be having a meeting to talk about sort of, and Sheena too, if she can join us to talk about just, you know, now that PEP's in the building at Marcus Garvey, the substation is based there. We've pretty much finished the building now. Just to check in on how we can best coordinate with, you know, the community board, with our community colleagues, with our parks colleagues, and with the precincts on just, you know, making sure that everybody feels good in the park, and taking advantage, by the way, of an initiative that the 25th is working on between NYPD and PEP that I'll learn more about next week. So that's it from me.
Thank you so much, Jana. And I just wanted to confirm, are there any updates for Pelham Fritz Recreation Center from Sheena or Jana?
Sheena, I'll jump in real quick. I will be going through next week with Sherry Plowden, the recreation manager. Sheena may have some updates I don't know about, but it is still being worked on. It's close to being finished. I think the glass is there for the front, and that will be put in shortly. Sheena, you got anything more?
I invited the parks manager, Sherry. She might be off today. You know, but I sent her the invite. Far as I know, the construction is still in progress, and they're making progress. They're there every day.
Yep.
That I see, they're there every day working on it. So it's in progress.
And-
so hopefully, you know, everything is working on schedule. But
And
I don't
Sheena-
think it's gonna open up this summer. It's not opening up this summer.
No, they are getting,
Right.
they're making progress. And we can find out next week sort of what that update is. And Sheena, to your point, Sherry was off today.
Oh, okay. Right. So but I know that that's one of the centers that is not opening this summer. But Thomas Jefferson and Jackie Robinson centers are opening.
Oh, and by the way, pool, we may have said this before, but the pool will open June 26th.
Yes, the pools will open June 26th. We're in process of doing that now as well, with the exception of Abraham Lincoln. Next year, we'll have Abraham Lincoln available.
Thank you so much. And you said June 22nd?
26.
26. Okay, sorry. I am dyslexic. Okay. Thank you so much, Sheena and Jana. Are there any questions from the board? Any questions from the public? Marguerite, go ahead.
Thank you. I just want to say real quick to please, ladies, Jana and Sheena. I guess Sheena's on the go, so she can't. Please don't forget to put your information in the chat.
You got it. I'll put Sheena's in right now as well as mine.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it.
You got it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Marguerite. And thank you, Jana and Sheena, for all of your great work. We'll move on to Friends of the East River Esplanade. I see Stacy.
Hi, everyone. There's a couple of updates tonight about the bait station first. Thanks to Jessica for asking us to apply for the AIA Excelsior Award. We actually got it. And so everybody's super excited about that. I don't know what it is, but it's a big deal. So Jessica, if you know more about it and you'd like to tell us, jump right in.
I don't know too much about it other than I saw it in my email, and it's for important public works and community-based architecture and infrastructure projects, of which El Barrio Bait Station is an excellent example. So it's the first thing to come to my mind. So congratulations.
Thank you. That's super exciting. So the good news with that also is that Parks has extended the bait station. It was set to come down May 31st, but if we can fulfill some contingencies that they've provided to us, then we'll be able to keep it up longer. So we're working through insurance right now. We're working through legal to make sure that what they need from us, we can provide within our budget and with our own maintenance. So hopefully, fingers crossed, we'll get that figured out before May 31st, and so we won't have to take it down. And then, as Carly mentioned earlier, we're hosting a fishing clinic on May 15th, and this is supported by DEC. They are providing the fishing instructors and all of the equipment that we'll need. And then the Sea Grant, who helped us fund the bait station, this is something that they had asked us to do. And because of the pandemic, we weren't able to, so now we're finally able to do it. So we're really excited. It's in person. I can put the link in the chat if that's okay with everyone. Otherwise, if you go to Eventbrite, you can pre-register there. Everybody needs to be registered, whether you're a parent or a child. And we've got 2 time slots, 10 a.m. and 11 a.m. So that should be really nice, and it will be at the bait station. Also on May 15th, we are planning on doing a wildflower planting. And if Eva Chan is on, she's a part of that crew at between 97th and 98th Streets on the Esplanade. And we chose that spot as our sort of test spot to see if we can get some drought resistant plants and flowers to grow on the Esplanade, knowing that we have very little water other than what Mother Nature provides. But you know, if it works, if the flowers and everything takes and parks approve it, we'll continue to move more north and just sort of create a better environment in East Harlem on the Esplanade. And then on Saturday, this Saturday, Jennifer, our board chair, is leading a virtual Jane's Walk. She's starting in El Barrio, walking down the Esplanade. She'll be giving some fun facts and things. So if you guys are sitting at home with nothing to do on Saturday, go to our Instagram live page and you can catch Jennifer talking about the Esplanade. And then lastly, this is not in the neighborhood, but I thought you guys should know anyway, within about 4 to 6 weeks, between 68th and 70th Streets on the Esplanade is going to be closed off for about a year for some construction. That's been a long time in coming. So if any of you are bikers or joggers and you start north and you head down south, you're gonna have to turn around at about 70th or 71st Street for a year. And there might be more construction going a little further north from there in the fall, but we don't have a confirmed date on that yet. That's all we've got going on.
Thank you so much, Stacy. I was looking at the fishing event coming up, and I was curious if it's just for kids or if adults can join as well.
Adults can join as well, yes. If you're a child, if you're 14 or under, you need an adult to help you because the fishing poles are 7 feet tall. So, but if you're a grown up and you just want to try a new hobby, come on out.
Great, awesome. I was hesitant to sign up, but now you've convinced me, so thank you.
Good, it'll be fun.
All right, are there any questions from the board? Any questions from the public? Okay, great. Thank you so much, Stacy.
Thank you.
And I realized we skipped over Marcus Garvey Park Alliance. I'm so sorry, Connie.
That's okay. So I'll be very brief. We have what wasn't mentioned on the 15th, the Urban Park Rangers will be in Marcus Garvey Park, and the watchtower will be open, so you can climb up to the observation deck. That's from 1 to 3 p.m. You can also ring the bell, which is ridiculously fun when you do it. Disproportionately fun to ring the bell, and it actually chimes throughout the neighborhood for those 2 hours. It's really pretty interesting. The other thing I will mention is we are working on a whole bunch of public art for Marcus Garvey Park and beyond. I think maybe the best thing to do there, since it involves several parks in District 11, maybe next month, if we can do a super brief presentation and give you just a quickie so you get a sense of what's going on. They'll be going in mostly July and August. I think that's about it for me. We have the NYPD Explorers coming in sometime in May once we can finalize the date. They may be good for the painting projects that Jana was talking about. And I think that's it for me. Oh, one last thing, the public art maps. We're almost out of them, believe it or not. We've literally gone through thousands, but there's still some at La Marqueta. And now you can also pick them up at the JVS Project Space, which is a new gallery in East Harlem on East 108th Street.
And I just want to chime in to say, if you haven't seen the public art that Connie Lee brought to Morningside Park with Friends of Morningside Park, Reclining Liberty, it is really fun. So definitely go out and see it. And thank you, Connie, because that's really brightening everybody's day in Morningside Park. And also just thank you for reminding me the Urban Park Rangers scheduled the tours. I can email those, or Connie, I don't know if you want to, following the meeting.
Yeah, they're about every 2 weeks, alternating Saturdays and Sundays. It's always 1 to 3. But I can send you the full schedule, Carly, for maybe the next email blast that CB11 does.
Great. Thank you so much, Connie. That would be great. And we'll definitely plan to leave some space in the June meeting for you to present about the public art. So thank you. Are there any questions from the board? Any questions from the public? Great. And last but not least, we'll move on to Friends of Harlem Art Park Alliance. And I don't know if Debbie is here. Okay, great.
Hi, I'm sorry that I was late. I had a little
Don't
bit
worry
of
about it.
conflict. So I just wanted to say that we have moved forward with launching our season, where we had the Earth Day celebration event on April 24th. We got some folks to make comments to the environmental justice report, so that was pretty good. We're looking forward to our next event, which is May 23rd. We're gonna have a pop-up drumming session. And you know, we're looking forward to having the park open a little bit later, and I have been talking to Sheena and folks at the Parks Department about extending the time, and what they decided to do was to have the park open until 7 o'clock as opposed to last year from 4 o'clock. And it's interesting because the permits that I put in with that assumption that they were going to be open till 7, I put events to go to 6, and then I'm getting memos and emails from the park saying, oh no, now you can only stay open until 5 because we're going to close the park at 6. And I'm just like, so I'm a little bit confused, because it's like you say you're going to go to 7, but then you're cutting off programs at 5. So have to look at that a little bit closer. Also have to reach out to the folks at the garden department to see if we can plan some more stuff coming with the new space that has been created with the removal of some of the plans to increase the line of sight. The other thing is that we also are graciously a recipient of a project with the Uptown Arts Initiative that's going to be installed hopefully the first week in June, and it's called Plastic Fantastic. We have some events coming up, which is the Gay Pride event, the first Saturday in June. And then the third Sunday in June, we're going to have an East Harlem Remembers COVID Memorial for folks that have passed from COVID. And then June 26th, we're going to be celebrating the 36th year anniversary of the installation of the Growth Awards. So at that time, we're going to relaunch the survey that we did last year, so that we can kind of do a baseline in terms of what's been implemented and what folks want to see. So we're super excited about some of the work, and we've been getting contacted by different candidates that are expressing interest in open spaces and parks. So we're going to see if maybe we can have some walkthroughs and discussions about the state of parks. And that's pretty much it.
Great. Thank you so much, Debbie. And let us know if we can help you with any of the permitting issues. Are there any questions from the board? Any questions from the public? Go ahead, Marguerite.
Thank you. I'm sorry, Debbie, in the beginning, I didn't catch what park you were referring to.
It's Harlem Art Park, located on 121st Street between Lexington and 3rd.
Oh, okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Great. Thank you, Debbie, and thank you everyone for all these great updates. And there's lots coming up in the next couple months. So looking forward to seeing you all out in the parks. Let's see. So now we'll move on to our discussions and presentations. We don't have any presentations this week or this month, but our first conversation is on the budget. Thank you, Carly. So I just wanted to give a really quick update on a few items just for everyone's knowledge. So if anyone has anything to add who is more knowledgeable than me, please feel free to chime in. So just from reviewing the executive budget summary, as you can see on the screen, the City Cleanup Corps is receiving $234 million for 10,000 jobs across the boroughs. They are resuming the organics collection and expanding their cycling program for another $33 million and restoring litter basket collection service for another $9 million. There's also a capital strategy on page 34, I believe, Carly, that talks about the completing the Manhattan Greenway. So this summary is a little bit confusing to me personally because on the left-hand side, you can see the map that says Harlem River Greenway clearly. But then on the right side, there's no mention of that specific section. So I just want to clarify that with, just to make sure that's still the plan. Obviously, it's still the plan, but and then if we move to the budget analysis, the executive budget analysis. So I went through sanitation, parks, and the Environmental Protection Agency. Just to summarize, I know this is can be a little dense. So in 2021, sanitation's budget went down $606 million. And in 2022, it's going down $76 million. 2021, they're attributing to emergency food programs that were put in place. And 2022 is attributed to lower planned commitments for facility construction, which I feel is very important to this group. They stated that their priorities for funding are garbage and recycling collection services, specified to be residential and eligible institutions. The second priority is street sweeping and street litter basket collection, another important topic for us. So they've mentioned there are 25,000 litter baskets citywide. And then the third priority is winter weather emergencies. This went up $145 million due to higher than average costs for this year. So that's the summary there. For sanitation facilities, they have a 4-year plan for funds and a 10-year plan for funds. So in the 4-year plan, they're looking at replacing 3 garages in the Bronx, or it may be a combined, it's a little bit unclear, the 9, 10, 11 district garages. And in Queens, they're relocating District 1 garage. In Staten Island, they're combining Districts 1 and 3 garages. And in Brooklyn, they're creating 1 new garage for District 3. So obviously there's no mention of a Manhattan District 11 garage here. So I went through the 10-year plan funds, which is a little bit lower down. And they mentioned that Manhattan would be receiving 2 new garages for Districts 6 and 8. And then there's a mention of, the first bullet point on the right-hand side that says construction of reconstruction of various facilities citywide. So it's not specific. It doesn't specifically mention our district. As we all know, we're still tracking our points of agreement that with our dual district garage. So I just wanted to flag all that for everyone. And if we move on to parks quickly, we have for 2021, the parks budget went up $25.4 million. And in 2022, it went up to equal. It doesn't say how much it went up, but it's now $1.2 billion due to the city city cleanup corps that Jana and others have mentioned. So that's a big jump for a big initiative. And their priorities for the funding, 1, maintain parks and playgrounds and infrastructure. 2, workforce training and funding. 3, street trees. 4, lifeguards, and 5, park construction. They have a priority for equitable funding with the Community Parks Initiative, which has $315 million designated towards high need neighborhood parks. They also have something called Parks Without Borders and Anchor Parks initiatives, which I'm not sure if anyone knows better, but I don't believe that any of those parks are within our district. There's only 8 Parks Without Borders and 5 Anchor Park initiatives projects.
You're
And their last,
You are
someone
right.
say something? Okay, thank you. And then engaging the community is another priority. Jana mentioned partnerships for parks, and Sheena did as well. So that's an ongoing commitment, as well as Green Thumb. And I didn't spend too much time on the EPA. I think their goals are a little more high level. A lot of their projects are, more citywide, nothing too specific to our district here. So I think, obviously, the Harlem River Greenway is funded, and we still have our concerns regarding sanitation, but I think the fact that our district garage is not mentioned could be something to bring up, but wanted to open up the conversation in case anyone has anything to add or to talk about specifically with this. Go ahead, Connie.
Just a quick note, I was at Harlem River Greenway the other day. And so it definitely is going forward. I wasn't there by myself. There was a sound test done for the art installation, and the designers were there, and that sound test was really in order to finalize the design that had to take place prior to that. Not much of an update, but we do know what's going on. Why don't we ask Steve Simon what the last time we talked, I think the budget was there about 150 million. Maybe we can ask if it's still that, or has it gone up a little bit with the influx of money that came in. Maybe just ask him what the actual current budget is.
Yeah, we can definitely do that, Connie. And just a note that because of the 90 million we lost because of COVID, we're sort of going to be kind of catching up for, we expect, 2 or 3 years as we try to recoup the loss. And that's not just the financial loss, that's also the time and maintenance lost. So just a note on that. And then 2, the money that came from the Biden bill at this point is going into only the cleanup corps. So that's the 10,000 jobs, and that's not just parks, that's a variety of public spaces. So absolutely, we can definitely check in with Steve, and I will do that too. He is our point person for securing and knowing how we can get more funding from aside from the basic budget. So that's my last point as we head into the election cycle. As we know, Perkins seat is up, for instance. So, BP seat is up. We secure our money from Marcus Garvey Park, which is the park I represent here at CB11, from the city council position and also from the BP. So, just a note there that could change things perhaps for the better. Who knows, as we go into the next fiscal year.
Thank you, Connie and Jana. And I just wanted to say we're about to move forward to a further conversation about the DSNY facilities. So keep that in mind. But are there any other comments or thoughts from the board on the budget before we move into Carly's going to walk us through our specific requests and where we landed with all of those? Connie, or Carly, if we could go to that document you made, that's really helpful and wonderful. Thank you. And you can feel free to go ahead and talk about it.
Yeah, sure. I decided after the Public Safety and Transportation Committee that going through each and every budget request wasn't as efficient as or effective, really, for what this next part of the budget process is, especially because we've reviewed them twice now with when we first submitted the budget request in October, and then when we received them again, when we received the preliminary responses. So I think we're all familiar with what our requests are. And I kind of the purpose of this exercise is, one, to see where we landed, and two, decide as a committee if you want to provide testimony to the city council submit written testimony, or actually go to the hearing on May 25th to submit testimony as a committee. So what I did here was group our requests by, or group the responses by funded, not funded, and funding uncertain. The funded category includes responses not only that grant new funding to a program or a capital request, but also maintain or claim that they're going to accommodate using existing resources. Now, this doesn't mean if these requests, if a request falls in the funded category, it doesn't mean that we just forget about it, especially for the requests that were that were given a response of the agency is going to accommodate using existing resources. I think the committee should want to keep track of that request and see where we're at through the district budget consultations, through these meetings. So just to go over, review the requests that were funded. Of course, the Eastern Esplanade and the 107 Street Pier was funded with I think it's 284 million. We have the Harlem Greenway Link from 127th to 132nd. That's in design that we saw earlier this year. The sanitation restored litter basket service. That was something we pushed for last year. They said that they were going to try to plant new street trees using existing resources. So maybe that's something we want to hear more about moving forward. And then the Marcus Garvey Park lighting. So we sent you the budget register, and in the register itself, it says that they're going to consult with DOT as DOT handles the park lighting. But in the Excel sheet that kind of expands upon the requests, it mentions, so it says that, and then it says that this request has been funded, or so I put that under the funded category. So this next category is not funded, ones that are non-ambiguous at all. It says, it needs further study. It says that, there are fiscal constraints. It says bring these requests to the attention of the elected officials, of our local elected officials. So we have the dual district sanitation garage, as Jessica mentioned. Nilsson's on the line. We're going to talk a little bit about that in old business. That is an East Harlem rezoning commitment. So the funding might not be secure yet, but it is a commitment, and that is something that we are going to push hard for. Comfort stations were not funded. Thomas Jefferson Park, Harlem Greenway Link, and Peter Minuet Playground. They just said that funding's not there. The Marcus Garvey Park Acropolis, not funded. The upgrades to the Comfort station at PS 155, we requested that they update the Comfort station to be ADA compliant. That was not funded. The Harlem Art Park fence, they specifically said that that request needs needs further study. So let's see, the upgrade. So to Peter Minuet Playground. So I just put soccer pitch here in parentheses because, you know, the park itself wasn't funded, but as you all know, it is being upgraded with the soccer pitch from the New York City Soccer Initiative. And then Eugene McCabe Playground, that was not funded, and Harlem River Park, the copper pipes and valves, also not funded. And then, I'm a little confused about the Community Parks Initiative because Jessica, you caught that there's funding in the mayor's message. It stated that, but not sure. Maybe just there's not that funding for parks in our district. We should find out specifically. And then for the funding uncertain, so these requests were either, you know, recommended for funding, but availability of some funds is uncertain, or, you know, they agree with the nature of the request, but they're not sure if the funding is going to be there. So we had requested that the seasonal budget for Department of Parks and Recreation is restored. We just heard from Sheena and Jana that they're going to be hiring, you know, they're going to be hiring. So yeah. We asked for more than one New York City Parks gardeners for our parks. Again, we're not sure that that's going to happen. Big Belly trash cans, not the Green Thumb outreach coordinators, vacant lot cleaning, street tree maintenance, and the East River Esplanade resiliency upgrades that we had requested it to DEP, but they're like, you know, this isn't within our agency, but I beg to differ. So now I see that we have some hands raised. Happy to take questions from first the board members, of course, and then the committee members. And then also we want to know, are you interested in submitting testimony? What are you interested in including within that testimony? I should state that we can submit testimony as a committee so long as the testimony does not expand upon previously voted on positions or does not expand upon what we've already submitted. So if it falls within our current positions, our statement of district needs, then it's fair game and we don't need to submit our testimony to full board for a vote. But if we decide that we want to include something extra, something that's not a position we've taken before, something that's not in our statement of district needs or budget request, then we would have to take a vote. So yeah, I see Debbie has her hand raised and I see Michelle has her hand raised and she joined us. So I'm going to mark her as present.
Yeah, so I'd like to find out two things. One is the Peter Minuit Playground upgrade soccer pitch. I thought that, maybe I'm confused. I thought we were discussing before the soccer piece on Cherry Park and on 108th Street, right?
Yes.
So what is
Right.
this? So what is this soccer pitch?
This is the one on 108th Street.
No, I know. I just don't recall a discussion about the soccer pitch on 108th Street because I think that I had mentioned that that's, you know, historically where the guys play stickball. And
Right.
I was wondering, how is that going to impact the stickball league?
Yeah, I forget which month we did this, but we had considered both Cherry Tree and Peter Minuit at the same time, and we as a committee and then the board supported the soccer pitch at Peter Minuet and then did not support the soccer pitch at Cherry Tree.
Sure.
I thought
Sure.
I thought that the soccer pitch was not at Peter Minuet, but that it was on Madison and 108th Street. Oh snap! Okay, so I really thought that it was on 108th Street and Park Avenue. That's why I remember making a motion not to support Cherry and to support 108th Street, thinking that it was Park Avenue. Oh, I'm gonna go to hell. Okay. So the other thing is, the Harlem Art Park fence, when they talk about further study, how can I work to support that to happen?
So Connie, I don't know if you have a response to Debbie and that's why your hand raised, or if you,
Yes, it's a response to Debbie. I sort of know the answer to that question.
go for it.
Just because the decorative fence in Harlem Art Park is, I believe it's cast iron. So repairing the fence is not like, oh, we'll just put some paint on it or we'll replace some pieces. It's more of a restoration project. So it ends up becoming a very, very large, expensive project, which doesn't mean that it shouldn't happen. They, in order to repair that fence, they might need to take samples. They may have to do tests, and so I do think you can continue to advocate for it, but I think it's important to advocate for the fence being restored, and not just throwing a coat of paint on it, which would just make the situation worse. It's a beautiful fence, but it's not something that is easily repaired.
No, I know. I mean, I did the study last summer, and that's what we came up with as a recommendation from the Green Vibrations report. And I'm grateful that this was put on as an item. Now the next step is, working with parks on how to do further exploration on the restoration, because when some folks came to the park, the commissioner said, well, we got some red paint, we could just put it up there. And I was just like, no, we're not going to do that. We're not going to just slap some red paint on there without doing some, significant review of the fence. So I think that what I'm asking for is, or I'm saying that I'm willing to follow up and with some guidance on how to keep this discussion moving forward.
So Debbie, I would say that if you could, and I can maybe recommend somebody, but if you really basically need like a preservation architect to advise you on, how to move forward. But also this is really something like take up with the council person. This is going to be end up being a capital project rather than a fence repair.
Right.
And you would need to get probably multi-year funding directed towards the project. It could end up being a few $1 million.
And I'm gonna also kind of need some more, I just to refresh myself about the soccer pitch at 108th Street, because I really, really thought that it was 108th Street and Park Avenue.
Okay, well, let's talk about that offline so we can
No,
continue the
I'm just,
budget.
I'm wrapping it up. I'm just saying that I just want to revisit that.
Okay, yeah, we can do that. Great. Thank you so much, Debbie and Connie, for your response. Michelle?
Hi, I have two things that I would like to bring up. One of them is, didn't the city already propose that any bathroom or comfort station per se that should be accessible to all, especially in a playground? I'm really uncertain on to why that needs further discussion and or further identify why it needs to be fully accessible. I just want to know what their reasoning is.
Jessica, do you want me to chime in here?
Go ahead, Jana.
Okay. Hi there. This is Jana. My understanding, I think I'm right, I'm not an expert on this, is that any existing structures that were created prior to the ADA requirements are sort of grandfathered in. Certainly any and all new construction, like the comfort station at Marcus Garvey Park, for instance, does have to be ADA.
Okay. And so in order to prove that it needs to be ADA, it has to undergo a count or some sort? Is that it?
Well, I don't think anything, to your point, I fully agree, needs to be proven to be ADA. Everything should be ADA. I guess what I'm sharing is that there was not an awareness of ADA on the consciousness of designers at a certain point, and now it is a requirement. If there is an effort to modify existing buildings that were created prior to ADA requirements, I think that's good. And that also would likely be probably capital funding because believe it or not, it's quite expensive to make those changes.
Yes, I do know. Thank you. The other thing that also to be revisited, of course, but the other thing is the trees. To have the funding to be able to put in trees and then to not maintain the trees and have that as uncertain funding just
There you
seems
go.
rather
There
ridiculous.
you go.
Yeah, I mean, you're pointing out a big problem for us, which is the fact that we don't have funding for maintenance at the level that we need it at. It's absolutely true. And that is something that has to be addressed by the city. As you guys probably know, we get a very, very small percentage of the city budget at parks, very small, 2,000 properties in 5 boroughs. So that is why we depend heavily on city council positions and BP offices to give us supplemental funding. So we certainly are aware of that as a problem. And we'll just share, I'll speak to Marcus Garvey. We did just put in some trees, but we put in a very small number of trees that we know we can maintain.
Okay.
Great. Thank you so much, Michelle. Are there any other comments or thoughts on testimony general?
Sorry, I have to go. I have to take this. This is long distance.
Okay, great. Thanks.
Sorry.
No problem. Okay, Carly, so I just wanted to confirm we can submit testimony as individuals. That's free game. We can consider submitting testimony as a committee, but it can't be anything that we have previously had a position on or.
Oh, sorry, it should be something.
Okay.
Previously had a position on if you want to just submit it at the committee level. If you want to expand upon a previously taken position, then it has to go to the full board.
Okay. Okay, is there any desire from the committee to submit testimony as a committee? It's okay if the answer is no. Okay. Well, I think, Carly, do you have anything else to add? I know there's a review of the city council public hearing calendar, but is there anything else related to the budget here?
Yeah. So I actually, well, I will say with the testimony, so what public safety and transportation did was they listed out a few points. You know, I think it was like 3 or 4 points that they want to include in the testimony, like the essence of what they want to capture. And I wrote that down, and I'm just gonna transform it into a public testimony. So I just wanted to say, like, that is what I'm doing for public safety and transportation, just in case there is desire, but like concern about like how to write a testimony. So yeah, I wanted to say that. And then as far as the city council calendar goes, I had put that on the agenda prior to understanding exactly how the public testimony component of the public of city council went. And so throughout the month of May, they started already. I think today was actually their first day where city agencies and the city agencies were meeting with city council and doing their public hearing. And then on May 25th is the public hearing for the public. I have to double check again. I forget which day, like New York City Parks is testifying, sanitation is testifying, DEP is testifying. but I will follow up with the committee on that. And I see that David has his hand raised, and then in the public section, our board member, our fellow board member, John Green, has his hand raised. So we'll go to David first and then John Green.
Hi, everyone. So when we do the testimony, we have to remember that it is submitted. So whatever you're going to go up and talk, they expect a written testimony to be delivered when you give your testimony. You don't have to, but again, it's important to do that. So I think if anything that we do from committee, we do have to vet before the full board, right? I mean, as a committee, as individuals, we can go say anything we want. Francis is always down there talking. So, you know. And you know, again, I want to better understand this too. So when we also deal with this in the youth, I know there's certain issues that have come up and people seem like they're sparked to maybe testify, but you know, I think we need to know how to do that correctly. So you would write something up, right? And then we would have to submit it to the board. Carly?
So we, no matter what, the testimony would be drafted. It would be written up. And it doesn't necessarily need to be spoken out loud. So if someone feels the desire to go and say the testimony, you can. But if not, just gonna submit it in writing. If you decide to submit testimony as a committee, we're going to agree upon the points that are going to be made tonight. I will draft it up and send it out to the committee, and if no one has any comments, and as long as it stays within the parameters of the positions we've taken and the discussion we have here tonight, then it does not need to be voted on at full board. But yeah, so it will be sent to you, and
Okay.
I absolutely. Yeah.
Hey, Carly and David. And before we move to John, I just wanted to say, I personally think that we could submit a testimony just by choosing some points here, as Carly is saying. I think there's a couple really obvious ones that we can touch on, but we'll go to John Green, think that over, and then I'll make a suggestion from my own personal opinion, and then y'all can chime in on what you think is best, and we can make an agreement. All right, John.
Good evening, everybody. John Green from the Budget and District Needs Committee. I totally agree with Carly. I think the thing is that if there are any requests that they haven't funded, or they've said that needs further study that you really want to push and advocate for, you really should, because the thing is that you never know if you can persuade them with your argument, it may get funded. That's first. Second, with this committee, I have no worries with you because your advocacy is legendary amongst board members. And third, the thing is that for fiscal year 23, the thing is that consider these two words when you start getting the request together for the city council: summer school. Because the thing is that doing it from September and having to give it in November, that's a lot. And the thing is that you consider having a meeting during the summer after the agency consultations and starting to put your request together for the city council. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, John. And thank you for being our budget liaison this whole time. You've been really great, and we definitely appreciate you. Okay, so I just wanted to, there were a few that were marked for needed, recommended for funding in 2022. And those included the seasonal park workers, Green Thumb, additional gardeners for our district, and the maintenance of street trees. I think that was all of them. So those are ones that, we can definitely bold. Thank you, Carly. And then, when it comes to next year, we can say, you said that we should fund this year. So please do that. So we can, lean on those. I think that Michelle made a really good point about the required maintenance of street trees. I know that the new street trees was something they said that Carly mentioned that they were going to fund within existing budget. So I think it's unrealistic to think that, you know, probably much is going to happen with that. So if that's a concern, I think the very obvious one is the sanitation garage. When reading the sanitation report, you know, they're really doing a lot in other boroughs, and then they have planned funding towards Manhattan for new facilities, but they don't mention ours, which is a point of agreement, and that's to me unacceptable. So if we were going to provide testimony, I would say obviously the dual district garage is number one. Then secondly, you could scroll up just a little bit, Carly. The comfort stations, while I know, you know, there's 3 we've requested, I think that that's probably a lot, but I think we also talked about, you know, the points of agreement for the Crack is Whack playground, and then discussing that as, you know, if it's not going to be done there needs to be a comfort station, whether it's at Crack is Whack, whether it's at the Harlem Greenway Link or Peter Minuet. So I think we could advocate for funding for one comfort station due to the unfulfilled promise so far of the Crack is Whack comfort station. And then I agree, I think potentially we could add the street tree maintenance as one. Are there any thoughts on that, or any additions or deletions, Russell?
In reference to the comfort stations, we cannot be advocating to build properties to hold masses of people and not have it as mandatory that we have comfort stations. We can't keep allowing costs to come in the way of that. So we shouldn't be settling for anything. We put it on the table. We're gonna get anyway, but we should never relent at all about the need for comfort stations. That's essential.
Completely agree. Thank you, Russell. Michelle?
I second what Russell just said. It's just ridiculous to think that all these people are going to come together away from their homes and not be able to use clean and safe facilities that are accessible to all. Even to have temporary stations during these summer months when people are going to want to go outside because they've been shut in so long and children have been in front of screens so long, they want to be outside. It's healthy to be outside. So I think we should just really push for that. I keep trying to pull the screen down and see further up, realizing that I don't have that ability. And also to have it to the wording for the trees, to have it as a continuity, if you to streamline that sentence of new trees need to be maintained properly or they're just going to die, and that would be a waste of money. In order to save money, why not maintain the new trees and maintain the trees that are already existing?
Great. Thank you, Michelle. Again, completely agree. David, go ahead. You're on mute. Oh, there you are.
So just echoing also with the comfort stations again, is we talk about kids and bringing little kids and having events that are going to be, that's, you know, so I don't want to spend too much, but I think the sanitation is a real issue. You know, and there have been other board members that have been on other committees. When I was on Met Cab, you know, we did fight for that, and Met is no longer interested because they got moved away from them, right? And even though it's uptown and still in East Harlem, It's not an issue for them directly, so they're not fighting that fight. But Jewel Jones, who is also a board member and attends some of our meetings, I forget the other committee that was, had strongly advocated to move the sanitation. And just hearing you talk and Carly talk about, all these other places that are going to be done, and not this one, right? And Chelsea got this, and not this one. And it's like, and we're holding other people's garbage. And, the community below us, 8, they come from the Bronx and take their garbage away. So I don't understand how this is we can't move on it, and why we're not getting the satisfaction that other communities are receiving. I'm bewildered. And it's been it's over 20 years fight. This is pre me being on the board for 12 years. And I'm sorry, I don't mean to keep echoing, but it's wicked.
Yeah, I agree. Thank you, David. And I think the point that got me when they mentioned that the budget for 2022 was down $76 million, it was specifically attributed to lower planned commitment for facility construction, which was a warning sign in my head. And then looking through all of the other,
You're not going to get it.
yeah, the other boroughs and the other plans for Manhattan new garages, it's just, I feel like they just decided not to do ours and took $76 million out of the budget. So, but if these 3 points are our points moving forward for the testimony as a committee, I guess we can take a vote on that, Carly. Does anyone have any final comments? I see David and Michelle's hands are still up. So if you can lower them if you don't have any further questions. And if you have any concerns about these 3 points or want to make any changes, raise your hand now before we move on. Go ahead, Michelle.
I just wanted to add that when the comfort stations are not available and children have to relieve themselves, people have gotten tickets for children that are doing that. So it's also a financial concern for parents. And
it's also unhealthy. Yeah.
Of course it's unhealthy too, but there's just so many reasons why a comfort station. I just really need to emphasize that. And I had forgotten to mention that point that people get, I think the ticket is $100 or $200. And they would give it to the grandparent or anyone who has the child.
Great, thank you, Michelle. I can, Carly, I guess, will the procedure be that we take a vote on this? Should we make a motion for these 3 points?
I don't believe that you need to vote.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't believe that you need to vote, but we do have
Nelson and Xavier here. So.
Yeah, if they
we got to get there, okay. You got to still get Nilsa's okay as the chair. We cannot represent the board unless Nilsa allows us. She is the only one that's allowed to represent.
No, David. So we are expanding. So everything that's listed here are there are current.
No. What I mean, Carly, is letters of support. Everything. Nilsa is the representative. We have to get her okay to be the individuals to go testify. You do. We can't sign a letter from this committee saying that we approve something. It's Nilsa as the board chair. That I know. We cannot represent the board.
Need support from the full board. If you are providing testimony on a position that's already been taken, it has been agreed that you do not need to get support. But Xavier has his hand raised. He might have more to contribute to that.
Don't testify unless you get support from me.
Am I recognized?
Yes, go ahead, Xavier. I'm so sorry.
So, what is the John Lee Hooker song? 1 bourbon, 1 scotch, and 1 beer. So let's have a little laugh.
I drink tequila.
Okay, there you go. So, keeping it light and fluffy. So, 2 things. One, if it is an official board position, that is the precedence. And if you are to expand upon that, then yes, it should be expressed through an official ratification or vote. However, if you were to go, what we have typically observed is that if you are going to represent the board on a position that has been maintained, and again, this is where both coalesce and dovetail together, we have typically said, hey, I would like to go represent, I sit on this committee, Madam Chair, I would like to submit testimony on the position on one of our budget requests. This is what I will submit on the record as a board member. And typically the chair, yes, will sign off on it and saying, yes, that is okay. If it expands or extrapolates or goes further into position because of current events that may support that, yes, it should, a vote should be taken. However, I'm not, in this instance, that is something for this committee. And if I've seen Nelson on the call, but again, as a matter of process, both are accurate. It's depending on what this committee may submit. But if it's just maintaining an existing position, my recommendation would be, hey, Madam Chair, I would love to submit X, Y, and Z. And this is what we're going to submit. And the committee has heard it and submitted for the record for our minutes. And, it's scheduled and then it will get reported back. Mind you, if you're going to present a position that is you as a community member, which may deviate, you must sign up for a separate speaking session. Do not mix the two. Do not conflate any of that. That cannot exist in this universe, and especially in a virtual universe, because there's too much room for error. If Nilsa, I know she and I have been going 6 ways from Sunday, but if she would like to comment, and Jessica, if you're pleased to have it, there's again no conflict, but rather just more a specification of process.
Thank you, Xavier. Go ahead, Madam Chair.
Hello, everyone. You hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. So if you're, if you are, I'm like Xavier, I'm of two minds of this. If you are just expanding on a position that the committee has already taken and you want to submit testimony, to me, that is fine. Of course, I have to sign off on it. If you are expanding, my suggestion might be that if you wanna, if we're not sure whether a motion should be taken in terms of the testimony and you want to formalize it, you can always do a motion to submit testimony on the following 4 items, blah, 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 that have been discussed in this meeting, and expand to support our previous positions. With the second, that should cover any testimony that the committee would want to submit if it's on a previously held position and it has been discussed within the meeting, to then be put in the minutes or discussed at the full board, or within your minutes that the full board can read. Again, as Xavier did reiterate, if you have a position that the committee has not discussed and it's a personal position, as an individual, you can more, you are welcome to testify, but you are to identify yourself as an individual. Community Board 11 should not be mentioned that you are a board member, for the simple reason that we don't want anyone to misunderstand and think that your personal position is the position of the board. And so that's why Xavier stated what he stated. Anyone who gives individual testimony, you most certainly can do that. That is your right as a community member. you should definitely do so. If there are things that you've heard and seen that you're not comfortable with, and I don't mean a committee, I mean just in the way the money has been divvied up and the projects that have been supported, most definitely. Again, if it's not something that has been discussed and the board hasn't taken a position on, you can reiterate your position through any testimony, as long as you do not identify yourself as a community board member, so that there is no confusion.
Thank you so much, Nelsa. So I guess we can just say anyone who's planning on going as an individual or going to submit testimony, reach out to Xavier and Nelsa to clarify that. And we are just, I think, looking at the testimony as a committee, which is all maintaining positions that we've already had here. So I think we've spent a lot of time on this. I'm so sorry, but I think it's all really important. And I think these 3 points are excellent points. And Carly, thank you for helping us through this process and all of your knowledge and efforts towards this. So we will. I can help you with the writing up of the testimony, and we can share that with you all. And that will be that. So, and we can start thinking about next year. So let's. If there's no other thoughts or questions or concerns, we can move on to our next, our new business. Okay. Thank you, Carly. So old business. So we talked through, a number of things that all touched upon the sanitation garage over the course of the past couple months. We've been building up to potentially make a resolution next month that is stating our concerns as to the inaction of the finalization of a site selection and funding towards the promised in the points of agreements new enclosed consolidated sanitation facility. It's a mouthful. I can't talk today. I'm sorry. So we just wanted to have a brief conversation tonight. Nelsa is here. Thank you to share her knowledge and to just go through the process that's already taken place and to help frame our discussion over the course of this month in preparation for writing a resolution next month.
Hello, everyone. So through the East Harlem rezoning and the points of agreement, it was formalized that a community advisory board would be discussing the sanitation garage because there was an immediacy, because the site that Metropolitan had that was serving as part of the sanitation on 99th Street was falling apart. And so it was a safety concern. And so various stakeholders since 2017 have started to meet city council members. We have community board members. We have the Manhattan Borough President. We have DSNY. We have other community stakeholders appointed through the council and others to participate through this community advisory group. This community advisory group meets quarterly and has looked at various sites that have been vetted. They've been vetted, they've been discussed. 2 points that have been in the forefront of this community advisory group is, one, if there's a permanent garage, where would it be housed? But there's definitely a need, as discussed, for a temporary garage, roughly about a 10-year garage, that would house M10 and M11. And so the advisory board had discussed the fact that if a permanent garage was to be sited in CB11, that we would want it to have all the bells and whistles that is in Lower Manhattan. a fully enclosed garage, LEED standards, where you don't even know it's a garage. The cost is exorbitant, but that is something that the Community Advisory Board continues to discuss. I will tell you that the sanitation, DSNY, have went to various sites that the advisory board recommended. And the last site, for various reasons, sites weren't unsuitable or they were under the control of another agency, and we couldn't get, the rights to that property. So the last site that has been discussed and put forward is the Potamkin site. Because after everything was said and done, there was some concerns, but that seemed to be the site that the Community Advisory Board decided on discussing and moving forward. I did not attend the last meeting, so I can't speak to what was discussed there. But I will tell you that the advisory board quarterly that it has met has been very thoughtful and has been very passionate about protecting the interests of CB11. I'm going to talk quick because I have a low power mode, and then I'm going to plug in. And so right now, the Potamkin site is the one that we have asked DSNY to look into to find out more particulars, and then pushing forward to making sure that if it's the temporary site, that it is built as well as it can be to protect the surrounding community. If it's something that can become a permanent site, if it's desired, then we had pushed for something that would be like Lower Manhattan. The costs are exorbitant. There was funding originally set aside. As you know, this is a promise through the points of agreement. DSNY must come up with the cash. But in order for us to have all the extras that we wanted, discussion was made of CB10 and CB11 working together to try to get as much funding as possible to supplement any funding that the city can give us. And so that's where we are right now with that point. But the Potamkin site was the site put forward. Randall's Island was not a possibility, and other sites in CB10, as well as other sites that we talked about. We even thought about a site in CB12 that did not pan out. I'm just gonna take a minute and plug in because I think my phone is gonna die. So I'm gonna mute myself and take myself off screen. Do you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, because I don't see anybody. All right. I think it's my power.
Oh, there you are.
Okay, I'm just gonna try to plug in.
Okay.
May I just add something for a point of clarification? I guess it's a question to Nilsa and Jessica, because Jessica was at the last one. I am pretty certain that the Potamkin site has been identified, like it's in the process of being built right now for the temporary garage. So the temporary relocation of M11 is happening at Potamkin, and what is being considered, and this is a question to you, Nilsa, what is being considered is not the relocation of the temporary garage to that site, but the possibility of having the permanent dual location, a dual district garage at Potamkin. So the temporary garage is happening, and what they're exploring is whether or not that is the best option for the permanent garage.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe the concern with the Potamkin site as a permanent location is the adjacency to MTA bus depot and the density of those types of services in one small area.
Hi, this is Nilsa. I'm back. I'm plugged in. Hopefully I'll last. there was a lot of concerns with all the sites under discussion. And, you know, one of the concerns was about the density, the potential density of traffic, additional foot traffic, additional cars in the site. But as the Community Advisory Board went through it with DSNY, there were different explanations as to why it could work. Some of the discussions was about if this was a temporary site, but there was monies to make it as attractive as the one in Lower Manhattan, where would, in 10 years' time or whenever the garage is set to move, where would it be sited? In light of the fact that it was very difficult to find this site, that is one thing that will have to be considered. And so the discussion is, if this temporary became a permanent, how do we ensure that the community has as much, I don't want to use the word protection because that's not what I mean, but that the garage itself offers the same amenities and the same benefits to the surrounding community like the one that is in Lower Manhattan. And so this group meets quarterly. It's mandated through the points of agreement. It's a fairly robust and diverse group. And so, like I said, after all, there was a lot of visits to a lot of different sites, but this was the one. So while there are concerns at the last meeting I attended, I did not attend the last one. I will tell you that we did not find sites that were viable, other than the Potamkin site seemed the most readily available that could do the purpose that was intended for the East Harlem Points of Agreement.
And Nelsa, I just have a question. I know we talked a little bit in previous meetings about the reasons as to why Randall's Island was decided not to be a viable location, and not any specific location on Randall's Island, but just the overall possibility of the amount of space on that area and you know, potential to do that anywhere in Randall's Island.
So one of the discussions came up, there was a large area that the Community Advisory Group identified that fell under another agency that uses it for training purposes. And so that fell by the wayside. There was a concern that DSNY expressed that exactly the bridge and the fact that if there's snow or salt, that the trucks could potentially not make it to where it needed to be if they got stuck trying to come from Randall's Island to, you know, over the bridge to, you know, to our areas or to wherever they needed to be. And so that was the reason that DSNY said, one, because the land we identified, the lots we identified were not available. And two, the potential that when snow, you know, when you need snow removal or salt spreading, that if it was a really bad situation, that the trucks might not be able to leave Randall's Island based on the conditions. So that was one of the main points that DSNY talked about in why Randall's Island was not a good site. Now, we, the Community Advisory Group, we said to them, you know, they told us about their concerns prior, before the identification of the lot that we looked at, that we thought about was under another agency. So when that was brought up about, you know, trucks getting stuck and things like that, we came up with different scenarios of why that could be potentially not an issue. But when they came back and said that that property is used by other agencies for training purposes, that just took those properties out. And there was no other clearly identifiable properties on Randall's Island for
You're right.
DSNY use.
And yeah, I think my uninformed opinion is that the second reason for the snow emergency events is not a really great reason. And there are trucks that go across that bridge all day, every day. And there are trucks, as David and others have mentioned, that come down from other boroughs across bridges to reach other neighborhoods in South Manhattan. So I think, I guess at a point, we've learned from the Harlem Greenway link, for example, that EDC can own a portion of land and then transition that land into the jurisdiction of NYC Parks. So I guess, something to consider would be if, certain land is unavailable because it's, owned by a different department or agency, that would there be potential for it to be transferred into sanitation's control? And then it seems that, the decision is based completely on a specific site. And I would be curious if we could, explore as a committee and any resolution that opens the opportunity up outside of that one single site on Randall's Island.
The community advisory group for DSNY is specifically tasked with this process. So that's why they have a representative of Community Board 11, the City Council. We can make suggestions, but I will tell you that this community advisory board really looked at a lot of properties that did not make the cut. The reason that Randall's Island property does not work is because it is a training ground for the fire department. That land will not go back to parks or to DSNY for any kind of sanitation. DSNY tried several times to get us more information, and when they came back, it was like an exhaustive conversation. This group has been together for at least 2 years working on this project. And I've been part of this group, as well as other members of Community Board 11 that have represented other agencies, but they've sat there as well. And we did have people from Metropolitan there as well. The Potamkin site was the site that, after all the sites were suggested, the Community Advisory Board would look at the maps, come up with different scenarios, look up different properties. They even went into other districts. Like, we even went into CB12 to ask if, with the Manhattan Borough President's assistance, if there was a possibility of a 3 district type garage. That did not pan out. So after all the properties we looked at, the Potamkin site was the one that can house the temporary site. If it becomes a permanent site, then that's different, but this has been earmarked as the temporary site with looks to be permanent if the other things that we've talked about, if funds can be added and raised to make it really an insulated kind of garage. I don't know what other sites you would recommend that this advisory board, which has been tasked through the points of agreement to work with DSNY, you can suggest for this advisory board, because this advisory board has looked at exhaustive properties, and this was the site that came up. Now, whether the committee wants to make suggestions as to what they would like to see, I could see that, but I will honestly tell you that the conversation is not about moving. I do not get the sense, based on the meetings I've attended and the recommendations that this body has already made, that there's going to be a discussion to potentially move this site that we're already in works. There was already conversations from the last meeting that I had with Potankin to site it there. So my question is, as the body that is tasked to do this has done the work on this, right? Which is the M10, M11 Community Advisory Group. And after all the work that they've done, the quarterly work and the sites that they've recommended, that group that's tasked to do that put forth the Potankin site. DSNY is in conversation with them, the last that I know of, to build, and I think that is moving forward, and I just heard Carly say it is. So my question is, Community Board 11 might have ideas that Community Board 11 feels, but this is not just a Community Board 11. Community Board 11 wasn't tasked to find the site. This advisory group made up of dozens of different stakeholders were tasked to find the sites, and they've made the recommendation. So my question is, what would this resolution from Community Board 11 be? Is it that you would like to recommend, I'm sorry, my voice, that you would like to recommend things that you would like to see as a committee that you would like to see included? Or if, because you can suggest other sites, but then this committee will be tasked to find sites. And I will tell you that work has already been done at least a year ago. If that makes any sense. I'm not sure I'm making sense.
Yeah, I think, this is just an open discussion. So please, if anyone in the committee has any questions or comments, please raise your hand. But I was just thinking, and we've been thinking as a committee over the past year or plus about the garage, and seeing the budget requests come back is not funded, and all of these different elements that touch on health and the welfare of our community, and this continues to be something that is needing to be addressed. And I think there was mention of potential, and thank you for providing so much insight on the process and the extent to which the sites have been explored. So we're just thinking as a committee that there could be pushback in some areas where sites may not have been considered or ruled out, and it's like you said, there's so many things to consider, and so much has been considered. So I think we're just interested in moving the issue forward as a committee, and I think we're just not sure how best to do that.
So I can have several suggestions, right? The fact that the budget does not show a clear allocation for the development of the M11 garage, right? Can be a question, right? Can be a committee. After review of the budget, you see that there doesn't seem to be, at least based on what you read, a dedicated funding stream for the M11 garage. The committee can advocate for funding to cover lots of stuff, right? Because you're concerned about the health impacts, you're concerned, right? You have a myriad of concerns, right? So I would look at the concerns that the committee has in terms of health, right? In terms of the fact that it doesn't seem, like it's explicit that 2 other CBs are getting garages, right? But the hours, which is part of the East Harlem rezoning points of agreement, where it is mandated, right, that there is a consolidated dual garage that is up to LEED Silver standards. I would frame it that way, right? Like all the concerns that the committee has based on health impacts, the fact that the garage is going to be servicing 2 CBs, the fact that you want to be sure that the final site was vetted appropriately, right? So, that's not saying that the committee's gonna come up with an alternate site, because I don't think that an alternate site would be viable now. But that you want to ensure that the due diligence was done for this community board, right? And you can mention, right? Well, so I don't want to lead you because it's a committee thing, but if just as an individual, right? If I have questions, right, and anybody would on this committee, it's okay to state that, a preferred site would have been, or would be, away from, because of this, and that, with the understanding, of course, that the Potamkin site, the Potamkin site is more than likely the one. I mean, it is the one right now. That's the one that was put forth. But you can address, that you would wish that, and because of the location, if at the Potamkin site, that you urge DSNY to do this because of this, and to do that because of that, and and then discuss it at committee. But as much as I will tell you that I was one of the ones that was real pro Randall's Island, and I was like, you know what? If there's a snowstorm, you can park in the street like you're parking now and not get caught over there. But every time this advisory board had a different property, something else came up that kept it from being the property. And so that's why the Potamkin site. Now, of course, there's a lot of concerns, right? You're gonna have the African burial ground. You have buildings that may be near the Potamkin construction site that, when as construction goes on, you want to make sure that there's no air quality impacts and the asthma, and what does that mean in terms of, the trucks that come in and out, and there's nothing that says that, after your discussion, that someone from DSNY can come to speak, right? Because I'm speaking on behalf of Community Board 11 representation, right? And like I said, I missed the last meeting because there was a confusion. And so by the time I logged in, the meeting was almost over. So I did log in. But there's nothing that says that the committee can't request a presentation or just an informational presentation, or just a 5-minute call as to where we are with the, M10 dual garage. I think that any resolution should definitely mention the concern about the funding, which, was mentioned, and that would be as part potentially of testimony. It speaks volumes that if that's something that is noted in testimony, that it can definitely be something discussed and put in a resolution if the committee decides to. So, like anything, I'm from the viewpoint that temporary to me is a word that can be used temporarily, that can easily become a permanent. And so one of the things we had talked about was potential fundraising, because apparently the garage in Lower Manhattan had a lot of money, and private enterprise put in money, and that's why it became. I did a tour of it. I don't know if you've ever done a tour of it, Jessica, but you go in and you don't even smell the garbage. And it's huge, and you don't see dirt, you don't see anything, the showers for the staff. I mean, it's gorgeous inside. And so, like I advocated and other members, this community deserves no less than something, one, that's not an eyesore, or two, does not do health impacts. So, you can have a discussion about that. And if that's something that potentially can become permanent, let's say within our boundaries, then the question becomes, what is it that CB11 would like to see if that ever became a permanent structure within, so one suggestion might be for the resolution is homework, right? So you might want to look at the the garage that's in Lower Manhattan, that's state of the art, and see the costs and to see what was actually put in, so that anything comes from an informed source. So it's not just, ad hoc kind of discussion, if that makes any sense.
Thank you so much. And before I move on to David, I think that's all really helpful. And I think we could definitely invite DSNY to our next meeting before we have this discussion. And I share your concern about temporary becoming not temporary any longer. But I'll let David speak, and then we can all move on.
Very quickly, I think having them come and present would be a good idea. They've been coming back to Potamkin prior to the points of agreement as a possible, or the only space. And the only other open space they thought was big enough was 111th Street, and we know what's going on there. So that's gone, right? And it's been a long time. And I remember even being part of MedCab and seeing plans of a station or what they had planned to make over there and do some temporary work. So maybe that's a good suggestion, Elsa, and then also to advocate to make sure that the money as part of this agreement. Maybe that's why they're not including it in the budget. That's what well, we're not putting it there because it's part of that money. But where's that money, right? Where does that money? It's not like a different pot of gold somewhere. So yeah, I think maybe them coming back and giving a presentation to the committee, especially even for myself, we've seen stuff, but it's been so old and we have many new members that I think would be very good to see that information. So thank you, Nilsa, for very in-depth. And I'm glad that it's moving along, and they unfortunately they keep coming back to that space.
Yeah, the space, obviously it's in an area where traffic like comes off of like the bridge and things like that. I will tell you that based on what I saw in Lower Manhattan, if that space became a garage like that, there would be really no issues in terms of, let's say, smells, where the surrounding community would be smelling things. You wouldn't see the trucks, and it has its own system to really make sure that the air quality is good and that there's no seepage. But like anything, I believe, if I remember correctly, and it was quite some years ago, as you mentioned, David, there may be a pot of money earmarked for the garage. The issue is, from budget to budget, does that change? And two, if it's a certain earmarked percentage of dollars, then does Community Board 11, based on what it would like to see, if when it is, as it's moving forward, is more money able to be funneled that way in order to give some of the things that Community Board 11 would like to see? I don't know if that, I don't control city funding, but that's always a question, and it's a valid question if the committee chooses to take that up. But like anything, we are fiscally constrained, except now with federal dollars, we seem to be jumping on a lot of projects. So there's nothing to say that we can't get more clarity as to why it's not so clear about the M11 garage, the dual garage. We can ask the questions.
Yeah, I see Russell has his hand up. Go ahead, Russell.
I want to thank you, Nelson, for the effort. And I feel at least a little, whatever, that at least the Randall's Island was considered, not in the way I wanted it to be with the landfill, but at least it was on the table. They went there. But what it seems appears to be that it's a foregone conclusion after all the locations were explored to exhaustion, that this will become the permanent space. So it should be no option for that body that understands that in foresight as well, that the only consideration or should not be considered to put a facility that is not like the state-of-the-art ones that's in other neighborhood, just for the health implication that that would impact over the next 100 years. We know where we stand in that
And so,
environment. So
Russell, you bring up a good point, right? If you know, and I don't speak on behalf of the community advisory group. I'm just speaking as someone who's attended their meetings, and will tell you that the group did its best to come up with multiple sites. So it's like anything, right? If we're having trouble finding land now, I don't think it's going to be easier 10 years down the line. And so I think that, you know, one of the things that the advisory board said is that, you know, this looks like it could potentially, right? Like trying to find ways to raise funds to get in some of the features in other places, because in 10 years, it may not, you know, they're saying it's a 10-year process now, but you never know, obviously, what can happen, and it can become permanent. So if the committee chooses to continue, right, to discuss this is an important topic, then I would suggest that, you know, some of the suggestions, or you can disregard them. You know, I don't want ever the committee to think I'm forcing them in one direction or another. But as an individual, you know, I like to look at what I'd like it to be, and then what are the features, and if DSNY comes and can give an update, then that would be questions, right? That could potentially be asked, like, you know, based on this, what do you see happening here? What do you see the funding stream? Is it, you know, is it right now a certain amount? What are the future potentialities for increasing that amount and adding in different things, such as, you know, as an individual, I like to ask a lot of questions. As community board chair, I like to listen. And so, you know, I'm always excited by committee discussion, and I always look forward to hearing what you all come up with, because we're a 50-member body, we're not just one person. So I hope that what I shared was helpful, if not specific. But I will tell you that a lot of sites were vetted, and the Potamkin site was the one that was put forth because it was the one that seemed to, I won't say fit the criteria, but as everything else was, you know, eliminated, the Potamkin site was the one that was basically left standing at this point for the temporary / potentially permanent garage if nothing happens. Or if something should happen that the garage cannot be moved for whatever reason, you know, like anything, I don't, you know, you tell me 10 years, I'll think 25, just because I'm that way. But like I said, the idea was that we would look to have the best garage that we could have, with the money and whatever monies can be added on. So, you know, I maybe Carly can add some more if she'd like.
if I could continue for a second.
Sure, Russell.
If history has taught us how this process works, we have to live with the reality that once this energy is going in now, the most energy, the momentum will be right now. And whatever is found can only be found now. We still have a pressing need for affordable housing, whatever that terminology means in our neighborhoods. So the likelihood of additional space to replace for sanitation space will not be likely. So I'm saying get them to the table. And then again, 10 years from now, the whole composition of this board might more than likely will be different with a different type of energy.
Absolutely. And the government.
And concern. So we have to stay in with our focus on health. And what does that mean in that corner of the neighborhood for 100 years? And to see how the priority now is, just like when they put Riverbank State Park over there, that was that facility started at Lower Manhattan. And the constellation was building it, that treatment plant, putting that park there. So the money was discovered just for it to land in our neighborhood. So I understand the press now should be making sure we have the state-of-the-art facility that could survive 10 decades.
Yep, and I agree with you, Russell, and I think that's why we're trying to push to, at least move it forward, whether it's an inch or mile next month. So Carly and I will reach out to DSNY to get them to see if they can come at our next month's meeting, and we'll continue to discuss. I'll create a shared Google document where we can all drop our thoughts on what we would like to be included in that over the next month, so that we have a plan of attack for June meeting, and some organized thoughts to bring to full board before the summer. So thank you so much, Nilsa, for coming to the meeting and offering all of your institutional knowledge and expertise.
Of course.
We appreciate you.
I love parks.
We do too. Awesome. So we'll plan to readdress this next month, and we will move on to new business, which we've been talking about for a while now, which is planning committee group visits. And this is not just for the committee, but I think the committee is driving which dates we pick, which parks we're going to focus on which dates, and who's leading the tours for each of those respective parks. So we created a doodle, which is a tool to help meeting times. So right now the doodle has my input on the dates for this month, but we're looking to find one day on a Saturday or Sunday. Right now, those times are 10 to 11 or 11 to 12 in the morning. 12 in the morning. But we, are open to other times. So if we'd prefer to go in the afternoons, I just figured it would be better for everyone. Maybe I'm mistaken that the mornings are better. So if you could click on the link in the chat and write your name, and if you I don't know, Carly, if you can open it from the chat. Thank you. Yeah, so and you'll see there's an arrow on the right-hand side so that you can extend the calendar out to see more dates. So I did not vote for the Saturday, May 15th, because I'm taking my cats to the vet that day, but I can reschedule if that happens to be the best day for everyone else. So once we pick a date, hopefully we can have attendance from every committee member at these sort of, I think we've discussed how important it is to have boots on the ground, to get out and share knowledge and to be informed about our parks and the experience in each parks and challenges that are being faced, so that when we get, certain presentations like the Peter Minuet and Cherry Tree Playground, New York City soccer initiatives, that we can come in informed about different stakeholders and important organizations that make those parks their homes. So we're going to be leaning on each of you as stewards of individual areas. And like for me, I'm not, very knowledgeable about any one park. So I think, we discussed this on our check-ins earlier in the year, but so we have some idea of what, parks people might be drawn to lending their own experiences about. So please fill in your name and the times that you would be available. Did I fill this out? It should be, I think the time is incorrect. I must have done it in Pacific time somehow, so I will correct that, because it should be 10 to 11 should be the first option for each day, and then 11 to 12 is the second option. I will fix that. And then Carly, could you pull up the map? Or I can pull it up if that's easier.
Just give me one moment.
Okay. Thank you. And I will circulate the poll again, and after I update the time zone. And the thought is that, you know, obviously we're going to extend the invitation to the rest of the community board. I know Xavier had said that he was interested in joining us, and as were some others in other organizations and things. So first we need to build the base of our committee. Thank you so much, Carly. So this was provided to us by the wonderful Connie Lee and the New Yorkers for Parks analysis of our neighborhood. So this is literally the best map I've ever seen. So thank you for sharing this with us. We, you know, we can take a group, I think within an hour, I think we can, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we can get in maybe 3 parks. So, and the idea is that we can do this in May and then again in June and then over the summer, so that we come into next cycle with a better committee understanding. So we've talked at length about the parks above 125th Street. And we know we have Russell and Diane and Malik and all sorts of people who are very knowledgeable about those parks. But if you see any parks that, like Francis obviously is going to be very knowledgeable about the Pleasant Village Community Garden. So take a look at this map. I'll send this around and just let us know if you have any, you know, lived experience or knowledge that would be helpful for these tours about any of these parks. And obviously, you know, we don't have to touch every single one, but it would be great to get your input. So we'll keep pushing on this over email, unless anyone has anything to add right now. And we'll plan to set up a date for this month. Any thoughts? Okay. Well, this is, you know, a big initiative for us to do this. So I'm really relying on all of you to make the commitment to, you know, do your homework and fill out the poll and think about the parks and show up on the days that we go out. So let's make it happen. Thank you all. And I think if there's no other new business, I think we can adjourn. So we can do our roll call.
Are you doing that? Are you going to send out the doodle another time or put it here?
I'll send it out tonight via email.
Okay.
It's
All right,
in
I'm
the
waiting to
chat
snatch
now.
it again. Okay.
Yeah, but I'll send it via email.
Okay.
Okay, you want me to do the
Sorry.
second poll?
Yes, please.
Okay. Collier? Elliott?
Present.
I have a question. I'm sorry. I'm kind of late. I mean, not late with the question, because I know you started late. But my question is how are we gonna all know what day to choose, like that everyone is gonna be to choose, since we only doing it by email?
Yep. So the doodle poll, you know, once everyone puts in their information, so please do it as soon as possible when I send it. It'll show which dates have the availability for the most people, and then we'll go with the date that the most people would be able to join. And as soon as we get that information, I will send it out with the plan.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm going to continue with the roll call. Giordano?
Present.
Heredia?
Present.
Lee?
Present.
Mastroda? I heard her. briefly. McCullough? Malik?
Yes.
Quinones? Schuler?
Present.
And Wiltshire Clement.
Present.
Okay, thank you all.
Thank you so much. This meeting is adjourned at 8:51. Thank you all for your hard work and everything. Great.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Good night, everyone.